Here's Mike Winters.
And good morning. It is 17 minutes after 9 o'clock, and joining us in studio, I guess some could say pastor, some, neighbor, school board, served on the school board as well.
Ex officiato.
But let's add another title, author. Alan Gedde joining us in studio this morning. Good morning. How you doing today?
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Good.
Doing great.
Good.
Well, of course, for folks who don't know, you do a lot of work over at Grace Community Church there, pastoring, mentoring to the folks there. How's life going there? And I know there are always 100 things going on at Grace Community Church. So
there are, but things are going really well. We're doing really well. Like all churches, we've kind of come out of this weird season, and it's good.
Yeah.
Things are good.
Well, and as churches should and do, Grace Community Church serves as a home for Roswell for many, not just for God and things, but the programs and various other organizations that share like-minded, values and things.
Absolutely.
But definitely, there's a lot of groups that call Grace Community Church home that in a technical sense aren't affiliated with the church.
Right.
But
you have some of them. You have some of them that come on here sometimes.
So it
right?
really is a gathering place for the community as much as it is a place for worshiping God. Too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that about Grace.
Yes,
it's one of my favorite things.
But so all through this, through all of that Alan, I guess you decided to write a book here, and the title of the book, which is available on Amazon, I'm assuming you can get a copy at Grace Community Church.
Yeah, Barnes and Noble, Apple Books. Yeah, it's everywhere you want to buy a book.
Everywhere major outlet that you buy books from, that it's available from.
Exactly.
The book is called Unless the Lord. It's a book about trusting the Lord through Psalm 127.
Exactly.
So it's basically, it sounds like it's giving the biblical reference and expanding on it, saying, if you follow this is kind of this is God's keys to a happy life kind of thing. If you, that's in essence what the book's about, right?
It is. It is actually, in essence, it's exactly what the book is about.
Okay.
So it's, I basically, my story, and it's in the book, is I didn't know the Lord as a child. I didn't know the Lord until I was a teenager.
Okay.
And just sort of when I got married, my wife, Tamara, she talked to me about this verse because I love to hunt.
Okay.
I just love to hunt.
That's your passion.
Yeah, it's like, it's right up there.
I want to be in the woods when I'm not in church.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and she showed this verse to me, and of course, in the middle of this verse, it says, "Happy is the man," it says, "whose quiver is full of children." And it was like the arrows, and I was like, "Oh yeah, hunter."
I can relate.
But as I read that verse over and over, and it kind of became our life verse. We would do things, and we would say, "No, this is what God wants us to do," and people would go, "You're crazy. God doesn't want you to do that." And we would go, "No, we really believe that." And we have just noticed, after 30 years of being married and 6 children and just life, that it's worked. It's not, we're not rich.
Sure.
We're not running around with millions of dollars, but
we're
happy.
Yeah.
And
that in and of itself, that's the real richness. I mean, you think about it. I mean, it's money obviously is something that, you can lead the world with the money here, but at the end of the day, it only gets you so far.
That's right.
It may get you the nicest car and the nicest house and the nicest things, but if you have no warmth, no heart, nobody to enjoy that with, no one to share that with, and what good is it?
That's right. That's right.
And at the end of the day, I think that's the reminder. It's like, sure, work hard, earn money, but if you're not using it on people and sharing it with people and connecting to people, then what wealth do you have?
Exactly. And that is one of the things that I talk a lot about, is just the idea that, I grew up in a household where my parents worked very hard to make ends meet.
Sure.
Just to make ends meet. And so I grew up in this thought process that if I wanted more, I had to work harder. If I wanted more, I had to do this, I had to do that. And I met so many people that worked 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And then you realized that they were sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking at it, and I thought, in this verse and in all throughout the Bible, it talks about that regardless of what you do, God is still the provider.
Right.
And, you could work 80 hours a week. God still is the provider. You may have worked it, but in the end, you could work 80 hours a week and your boss could look at you and go, I don't have any money. I can't pay you.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, you're right.
So that idea.
And that probably happens quite, more often than you think.
Right. It could happen.
Yeah.
Right. And so that idea of just sort of saying, okay, God, this is what I'm doing for you. And I'm going to allow you to provide for my family, provide for my health, provide for my children. I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do to protect, provide, or support my children. Because in the end, like, I have a daughter right now who lives in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
She goes to UNM. Sure, I can watch her when she drives home. Like, because I have this really cool device that I can do everything with. But in the end, if her tire blows or a deer pops out in front of her,
sure,
I can't protect her in that situation.
Right.
I have to totally depend on God to protect her.
Yeah.
And whatever
makes
happens,
sense.
I have to depend on the fact that it's good.
Sure. And at the end of the day, and this is, when we talk about God and free will and your ability to make your own choices, and at the end of the day, that's the only thing you really control is you're choosing to go one path or another.
That's right.
You surround yourself with family and raise family, and you just try to give them all the tools you can. But at the end of the day, you got to pray and hope that they choose to make those same decisions you want them to make.
That's right.
And that's where you're talking about. It's like, sure, you could build the biggest fortress in the world, but you can't make the people you love stay in it.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And it is. It's hard to, even as a parent of 6 children, and now I have 3 adult children and 3 children at home now. And I have one daughter that lives in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I have a grandchild in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I don't even get to see them that much. I totally have to depend on that. We were going over there to visit for Christmas one year. It was before they had the baby. And we get a phone call halfway there. Our daughter's going to the hospital because they hit a patch of ice and rolled over.
Ooh.
And, you realize just how not in control I am.
Yeah. But, and then I also, and this is where I go into, and this is where you can kind of get into the other, why would God want this or why would, but, we all, we're all on our tests, I think. You know what I mean? We're all here, trying to carve our own paths and do things the way we envision God, most of us want
right.
that life to be. And let's face it, we're humans. We make mistakes. We think, even if we think it's the most righteous or right thing to do, sometimes that's not the plan. But God gives us these tests to, I think, make us better and
right.
to give us the tools for what we're going to deal with later in life.
That's right.
I think that's kind of, in my heart, I think there's a reason for all that, even though we don't understand it or know it, and this is where faith comes in. And this is, Christianity at its core. You don't know what's going to happen next. You just have the faith to know that God's got the plan and he's going to take care of you when that time comes.
That's right. And that's a huge faith issue.
Yeah.
It is. And one of the things I say, not in the book, but just in general, is we're all on a journey. And that journey, one of the things I've really enjoyed, and I've been working at churches, but I've been at Grace now 11 years. And I think one of the reasons I just love being at Grace is because we just sort of say it's your journey.
Sure.
We want to show you a purpose for your life. We're going to give you purpose, but how you do that is
we're giving you the tools,
Yeah.
what you do with them. It's like, it's no different than, say, you go to train to be a mechanic and they give you the most awesome, expensive toolbox in the world. But if you don't fix cars with it, what good's that toolbox? You know what I mean?
Well, it can be really pretty.
Yeah, it makes great decor. Yeah.
And put that in your garage and shine it up.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of, and so this book, it really, obviously you're looking at through a family perspective and saying, this is our key here. But I would probably say that the lessons taught here translate in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
Obviously, most of us, we all got to have work to earn
Right.
income to support ourselves and our family.
That's right.
Those relationships, they can be very frustrating in times and and I think using some of these, listening and reading this book and then going back and through the Bible and reading the verses and you have a better understanding. I think the lesson you're going to come from that is, like you said earlier, you can only control what you control. The rest are God's plan. You can make someone all day try to see your point of view on a particular issue at a job, but you're not going to change them. They're going to ultimately make that choice for themselves. When you understand and accept that fact, maybe you won't beat yourself up trying to make them convinced of your way of thinking.
Well, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And because, let's face it, we live in a world now where stress levels are at a high time, and people are going to react unrationally sometimes just because you're in a mental state where it's that fight or flight feeling, or you're backed into a corner. You always hear the most dangerous people are the ones you got backed into a corner. There's a reason for that, because they're unpredictable.
Well, that's right.
And it's fight or flight survival. And when you get in that mindset, I'm not talking, but even though the argument, it's in the same ballpark here. Once you understand and realize, look, sometimes you just got to let that go and let them go on their path, and they're going to find out one way or another, what you believe. And,
that's right.
And there is some point where you don't want to suck yourself down into the same, because at the end of the day, I believe if you go to that level, you're done. You're not respected. You're not going to be taken seriously, and all the good things you're trying to do are now going to be negated by that.
Right.
I think reading this book and will give you some of the guide and tools to understand, the poker game. Know when it's time to be the lion, when it's time to be the sheep or be the lamb, and
absolutely.
and I think that's life's lesson.
Yeah.
There's going to be times when God wants us to be the lion and be the leader. And then there's times he wants us to be the lamb and say, follow the people, follow me, follow the ones that know where we're going here.
That's right.
And have trust in that. And
that's right.
That's Christianity in a nutshell. It really is.
It really is, man. I think one of the things I really, by the way, when I first decided I was going to write a book, I didn't think that by the end of it, I wouldn't like it very much. And I loved it, and I did. I think it's a great book, but I've read it so many times now.
Yeah.
And I see all the things I could have done better. But I hope that people really understand the meat of it is that, if you just look at God and go, okay, Lord, I get that this was not how I wanted this to go.
Right.
But man, it's still really good. And you can begin to look at your life from not this idea of I wish it was better.
Right.
But it's good.
Yeah.
And life is good.
Well, and that's just it. I think it reminds you of the good things you have.
Right.
Sometimes, because there is that I'm just sweating profusely. It's getting this buggy getting here. I'm like, ugh.
I'm getting there too.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're getting warm for you
Calm
too.
down,
Good. All
calm
right.
down.
Making sure. Let's get the muggy back. That's why I'm not wearing headphones anymore. The mugginess is moving in. But so I'm kind of curious, because you're talking about writing this book and you're reading it, and we're all very critical of ourselves and things. I don't know how many times people come. Is that how I sound like on the radio? I sound awful. It's that same area.
That's
where
right.
I think we
Exactly.
think about that stuff. But for you, so what? I mean, did you always have? Are you a writer to begin with? Like, are you someone that writes a lot in your personal life, or because it's a leap. People. There's lots of people say, "I should write a book." Yeah, I should write a book. But then when it's time to sit in front of the keyboard and start typing, where do you start? Where do you go? How do you structure? So, what was that path for you? Was it something you had advice, experience to, or you just said, "I'm going to start pecking away and see what happens here"?
Well, I mean, going through one of the things about seminary is you do a lot of writing.
Yeah.
But I'm not a writer. I never envisioned ever in my life that I would write a book.
Gotcha.
But this particular passage, and I think I'm going to write more now. I feel pretty confident that I've written a book that can help people.
Sure. And obviously it's good enough for it to get published and I mean,
yeah.
So somebody agrees with you.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
would.
You know what I mean? And so that's and trust me, in the book world, it's a lot easier now because you can do self-publishing and things.
Right.
But let's face it, to get a book, especially, like available on all the platforms you have it on, that takes some people, believing in you and doing and seeing what you're doing and saying so. So I think your instincts are right, and people will agree with you because now you have a book that's available worldwide.
Yeah, and that's really. Which, by the way, when you say that, just kind of floors me, because when I first started writing it, it was kind of just the passion of the idea that what I did was I took stories, hunting, camping, kind of my life,
how you relate it, yeah,
and sort of related that to this idea of this very, very short passage. Probably as far as passages go that you would write a book on, you would want a lot more.
Sure.
But this was it. And when I decided to write it, I had my wife was tremendously supportive. Like for Christmas, before I wrote it, she bought me this little writer's box and a little recorder and some notes.
So she's doing all the stuff a spouse does when they're supporting their partner in their passion or pursuit or dream.
Yeah, she rocked it. Like
nice.
It was just like, man, I really need. It was kind of like I came out of Christmas and went, I better write this book.
Yeah, she kind of lit the fire. It's like she bought all this stuff. I better do something with it. We're going to hear about this the rest of the marriage.
Exactly. And what I remember thinking is I didn't know where to begin. I didn't know how to start it.
Yeah.
And I had kind of a friend who has written a few books and he's more of an acquaintance. I shouldn't call him a friend, but we talk. And I emailed him and I said, how did you start your first book? And he goes, I just started writing. He said, I set up a time every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write. And he said, I started with 30 minutes. And then it just moved from there.
Sure. Kind of like working out.
Right.
It's like start slow and then build yourself up.
Yeah, it is the same way. And so I just did. I just started writing. And I love to tell stories. Half of this book is just stories.
Well, and that's what people want, Well, and I imagine that's how you relate to the message. Because we can all read Psalm 127 of the Bible. We don't need you to do that, you know what I'm saying? We all do that.
Yeah.
But your stories, your interpretation of that and how you have applied it to your life, that's where the book is. And that's where you're saying, look, y'all read it too. This is how you do it. It's like you read it and you're like, well, what does that mean to me? And now you can see what it means to Alan here.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you're going to read it and be like, you know what? I can relate to that. I can relate. Maybe you're not into hunting, but the things that happen in those adventures relate to other aspects of your life. The relationships. I'm sure there's stories with your family and hunting and things those
friends,
experiences.
Family.
You probably had very similar conversations with your loved ones. It may have just been in a restaurant or in your family room instead of out in the woods.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's, so I did, I just started writing and I would sit down and I would just write and I would write and I would go, and even as I wrote something, I would be like, oh, I should do this here.
Mm-hmm.
I think this would be really cool. So it is stories, but it's my stories. And then it's another story from the Bible that I feel like really hits on that.
Gotcha.
And because, Psalm 127 it's very short. It's 5 verses and that's it. And so, and even some of the verses are split up into 2 sections. But the idea was, I was like, man, this Bible story talks about this.
Yeah.
Ruth and Naomi, that works for this part of this. And Gideon, how it fits with protection and just all of those different things. And I'm like, what a cool thing. And that's what I did. And I just started at it. And then after it took me about 7 months to write it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took me another 3 months to edit it, my editing.
Right. Before the editor.
Before I even sent it to the publisher and said, I submitted it to the publisher. And
did you use your wife or another family member as like your sounding board to read everything and kind of give you notes and critique and things?
Definitely, I would say I would talk to people about it.
Okay.
I didn't like, hey, read this.
Right.
They would have, but ultimately, I was kind of.
That's why I kind of maybe your wife or someone.
Oh my gosh,
someone more intimate in your family or your household.
It was huge to talk through things that I was thinking and writing, like, because as I was writing, I would be like, wow, this is a big deal. Like, you wouldn't think about it. And I'm sure I had thought about it in my life. It was one of the reasons I wanted to write the book. But I would come to this point and I'd be writing and I'd be like, Tamara, you listen to this.
Yeah.
I was writing and this is what popped up.
Sure.
And then
it's almost like you were, like it was a feeling of, I mean, you were in control of your thoughts and everything, but sometimes when it's flowing, it's, you know, you almost get in like an automatic pilot mode where maybe some of the other things you're not focused on, and it's just you and the keyboard and your brain, and even if you're you know what does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
You get in that zone a little bit there.
Yeah, I felt there were times and you know, Jesus comes into my life and as I'm writing this book, I just felt at certain times like I wasn't even writing it.
Like you're just the pen.
It was just the Spirit took over.
Yeah.
And there were things like my daughter read the book, you know, one of the first people obviously my family, you know, read the book pretty fast. And my daughter read the book and she sent me this quote from the book. She goes, "This floored me. I love this." And I don't remember writing it.
Yeah, you just kind of like,
I wrote that?
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've read it.
Sure.
And I've read it and I did write it, but I was like, wow, I didn't.
Well, and I believe our brains, we know a lot more than we realize we know sometimes. And it's just things I think, you know, because, you know, obviously in science and everything, there's so little about the brain, I think, in the scheme of things we truly know. You know what I mean? I think we're just scratching the surface on that kind of stuff. But that being said, I think, you know, there's stuff that comes in parts we don't understand where that is like, there's stuff here that we just don't realize it. We don't access it. And then when the time's right, some would say maybe God opens that channel for you. Maybe it, you know, whatever, maybe something else triggered it, but whatever it is, something's triggering this other space. And I think
that's right.
You know, it's kind of like, you know, when you get into hypnotism and they try to get, you know, they use it as a tool to try to get you to remember something. Usually it's like traumatic events, things like that.
Right.
Stuff that your brain does to protect you.
Right, absolutely. Blocking things out.
Yeah, I think there's something else going on in there that it's like, yeah, we're going to store it, and you may not need it now, but when the time's right, we're gonna hit you with it. You know what I mean? I think that's something in that. And again, I don't understand it. We probably won't, but God does, and he seems to work that out pretty good.
He does, yeah.
So,
He does.
that's what I believe. You
Oh,
know?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right.
So now that, you know, once you get basically a book, how do you go to the process of saying, I got a book, how do we get it on Amazon and everywhere else?
Well, that was the publisher.
Okay.
I
guess, is it just pitching the book to as many publishers as you can and see what sticks?
I pitched it to one.
Oh, and it just
so they were like, yes, we'll publish your book.
So you didn't have to shop it. You get first crack and well, that probably speaks volumes for what you wrote. I mean, if the first person that you offer it to says, I'll take it, that's a pretty good endorsement right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird. I constantly felt like it was fake.
Mm-hmm. Right. You're waiting for like that fake lottery ticket, like $1 million, really?
Yeah,
and it's like, haha, that's not real.
And then, you know, because, you know, when publishers, at least as far as I know, obviously there's big publishers, right?
Sure.
Big publishers, big authors.
Yeah, the ones that write, you know, publish Tom Clancy and Stephen King books all day.
They're on contract. Obviously, I'm pitching the book.
Yeah.
So there was some financial investment I had to make into it. I didn't think it was much. But I paid, you know, I paid them to kind of do all of this.
Gotcha.
But I still only pitched it to one, and I didn't know if that was good or bad.
Sure.
You know, it wasn't like I went to Zondervan.
Yeah, right. But I'm guessing that's standard operating procedure for anyone that's not John Grisham.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. You're probably right. Right. Like Rick Warren. You know, they're like, yeah, no, right. Please, let's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was that. And I didn't have to, once it was in their hands, it was really about me sort of approving their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a long process. So I started that August of last year, was when they accepted it. When the publisher accepted it and said, we've got the manuscript. Here's your timeline. And they would send it to me and I'd have to read it and go through their edits. They would edit it. I mean, we're not talking about, it was funny. You would think it was just grammar, like, oh, well, you need a comma here and this should be a period. But sometimes it wasn't. It was like, most readers don't like it when you say stuff this way.
Okay.
It was like,
so they were phrasing and things.
Really going through, and they would highlight, and I would have to go through, and then I would send that back and be like, okay, I like this edit. I don't like this edit. I like this edit.
Did they give you some talking? Like if you did disagree with an edit, would you have the ability to fight for it?
Yeah. Oh,
gotcha.
Yeah. They would say, I would say, this is why I said that. And they would go, oh, well, that makes sense.
Okay.
We see where you're headed with that.
So once you explain your logic to them, they're like, all right, now I get the, okay.
Yeah.
But, so it wasn't like Gestapo, you must change that to he and this for we won't publish it.
Right. Well, and it was really cool is they would say stuff like, here's why we think this.
Okay.
So we get what you're saying, but we think if you just phrased it this way, it flows better. And I'd be like,
let's face it, they've been probably publishing books a lot longer. You've been writing them, so
exactly.
They probably do know that. So
so that was that, and then of course everything they did, it was really them. I mean, even like now it's when they first started, like, hey, your book's done, and I was like, yay, and then they're like, but it's not totally done. Like we still have some other things to do, so. We have to do a press release and we have to do this and we have to do that. So as they were just going through that process, they just said, and this is when it will really be published. And it really, just like this week, I got the email that said, your book is now fully published.
Nice. So really first of the month here, it's kind of all starting to come up to the world here.
But I've had the book for months.
Yeah.
And I've been giving it out to people and
so locals have got the first crack at it.
Yeah,
here,
well, especially Grace, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I had a book signing kind of thing where I was like, hey, if you guys buy a book for this price, I will sign it and send it off and you get it. You will get it as soon as I get them.
Oh, cool.
And so that was kind of cool for Grace because let's be honest, Grace had to support it too.
Absolutely.
Obviously Rick and the deacons and everybody had to be like, no, Alan, we're going to give you this time.
And at the end of the day, even though, you're your own man and your own thing, your actions and what you do, because people know you as part of the Grace family and everything else, by default, you're kind of a representative of the church and the outside, whether you wanted that or not, that's what it is.
That's right.
So especially when you're writing a religious book, they're going to want to make sure that it jives with what they're saying, too.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. Very true. Very, very true. Yeah.
So, yes, they're going to, and obviously Rick and everyone else was like, Alan, this is perfect, and they hit the ground running with you, and here we are today with the book, and it's on Barnes & Noble and Amazon and everywhere that you can find paperback books today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool.
Yeah. So, please... now we got to ask, when's the copy going to show up in our public libraries and everything? Hopefully it'll be pretty quick.
Right?
Maybe we can check out. Maybe wait a little bit so we can sell some copies. But after time, let's put a free one in the library for
I can put a free one in the library. I have. I mean, I give them out. I didn't even.
Sure.
That's the weird part about it is I'm like, how does it work now?
Yeah.
Do I? And so that was why I kind of was
and
like.
And I think it, at least from my understanding is, where now you have to become the promotion machine. Right. And again, John Grisham and those guys, they've got a whole team of people that do that. But a first-time author, you got to go and go door to door and hawk your book, basically.
Right. And that's basically, so the cool thing the publisher did is they sent out basically a promotion booklet, and they had several other options in there, but they just said, here's what you do. And so that's what I started doing. And so that's why I sent you an email and, the paper did a little thing in the Visions, I think a couple weeks ago. Okay. They called and said, hey, we'll do that for you. And so, So I'm going to just start doing that now.
Okay. You going to do some book signing events or something at the church or maybe somewhere in town here?
Once I get really moving, I want to do that as well. I started, I have a website now
Okay.
unlessthelord.org.
Okay.
Somebody can go there and buy the book through that as well.
Perfect.
But also there's some other things on there. I have a podcast.
Oh, great.
Unless the Lord, all of it.
It's all connected.
You can
to
get
book.
the idea.
Yeah.
So I have
It's like The Shack. Remember when The Shack came out and there was The Shack everything?
The Shack everything. So I was like, man, I should get some T-shirts. Little license plate ring. So I'm really trying to do that. I've had the podcast for a while now.
Okay.
But,
of course, that probably covers, everything from I mean,
Right.
God, but
Oh,
I
man, I
imagine
talk
even
about
probably
everything.
covers some of the stuff you cover in church on Sundays and Wednesdays.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, I talk about everything. Like a couple weeks ago, I looked at the front of my hood and there were dirt spots on the hood. And I thought, man, when we talk about being washed by the blood of Jesus, I wonder how many times we just get sprinkled and we just leave all the dirt everywhere because we didn't really accept that grace. And I was like, oh, that's a good podcast. So that's what I do. That's how I how I come up with my stuff. But yeah, I'm just sort of like this idea of unless the Lord has become a mantra. Like, kind of like for me anyway, remember when the bracelets came out, what would Jesus do? Of course, that was a big hit.
Yeah.
Kind of that idea, like, unless the Lord is in this, I don't know that I want to do it.
Sure.
And that can be a big question I have to ask myself. And I think it'd be cool if we started asking it like, wow, unless the Lord is in me honking my horn and giving this guy the finger, should I really do it?
Right.
And I mean, I'm a pastor. I don't flip the bird.
But you feel it.
But I felt it, right?
Yeah, you want to.
I've thought about it.
You are a human being, and you get angry or frustrated or happy just like every other human being on the planet, and you react accordingly. And that's kind of at the gist of what I was talking about earlier. That a lesson in the book is at the end of the day, that person that cut you off, and here's the thing: they don't care that you want to flip the bird,
right?
Anything. It does no good.
Nope.
Maybe for a tenth of a
that
second, you feel good about yourself. Like, yeah, I got that guy. But then afterwards, you're like, then about an hour later, you're like, I think I sounded like a child there. That was kind of dumb. And you regret it,
Right. And in our world today, I mean, Mike, you know this.
Yeah.
It's ugly. And people are ugly to each other and people are mean to each other. And I think, if I could have even one person read my book and go, you know what, I'm just gonna follow this idea and be nice, and love people. I don't have to love everything about you, but I can love you.
Sure.
I mean, come on. And if we're nice, this world changes.
Well, and at the end of the day, I think that's God's message. When we talk about it, we're all God's children. Love God's children.
Yep.
If God's children do wrong, that's God's job to take care of. You know what I mean? Sure, we can guide, try to change people and try to mentor them. But at the end of the day, it's God's plan.
That's right.
God's judgment. We don't judge. We're not the ones to judge. There's a lot of verses and quotes in the Bible telling us we're not the ones to judge. You just love.
That's right.
And let him take care of the judging.
That's right. Love God, love people. And I feel like, man, when the publisher does the back cover, which I thought was interesting because I read it and I'm like, man, I'd like to write like that. But I just think that when I read the back cover, I said, I want to read my book.
It enticed you.
Right. Like,
this is a good thing.
The culture around us, the things that are going on in the world today can just drive you right down, man.
Yeah.
They can beat you up if you dwell on those things.
Absolutely. And that's why you gotta let it go sometimes.
That's
and
right.
Say it's God's plan. I can control what I can control, and what I can't, I gotta let go.
Yeah, and let him deal with it and be happy.
Yeah.
And treat people well. And I don't see how that's a bad thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm just like, it's good.
Yeah. Doing good for people is never the wrong decision.
That's right.
Yeah. For folks just tuning in, Alan Gedde's joining us here. The book is called Unless the Lord, a book about trusting the Lord through Psalm 127. It's available on paperback everywhere you get books, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or if you just come on down to Grace Community Church and we can get a copy there for you.
Right.
And obviously, be on the lookout for book signings and things. But of course, if
That's
you want
right.
to get a signed copy, and Alan be happy to.
Oh man, just
take care of all that
call the
stuff.
church and let me know.
Yeah.
I'll come to your work.
Yeah.
Sign it. Also, it's ebook too. So
Oh, good. So if you want to do down your Kindles and all
Yep.
that stuff,
Kindle,
it's available
Apple,
and all that.
iBooks, yep.
Yeah, good deal. Those are great. Another great way. I like Kindle in some instances, but sometimes I want the book.
sometimes it's just nice to have
You
it in
need
your
the
hand,
old,
right?
but I can
right.
appreciate the convenience of a Kindle, especially on
Yeah.
vacation or something like that. And you want to lug a bunch of books. It's a godsend.
There you go. There you go. Absolutely.
Speaking of Grace Community Church, they have an event we do want to put on people's radar here. Of course, back to school is today.
Yeah.
Kids are going back to school here, and of course, Grace is celebrating.
That's
back to
right.
School.
I got this guy from his name is Dr. Dan Bellamy, and he'll be at the church on the 12th.
Okay.
Friday the 12th.
Which is next
Friday.
Friday. Yeah, next Friday.
Yeah, at 6 p.m.
Week from tomorrow.
You can go to McDonald's, eat your dinner, and come and watch this guy. And he does inflatable stories. So what he does is he does balloon and I mean I know that video probably doesn't see the little pictures, but if you see, there's like little humans. He's
they
done
are
all
balloons. Okay.
They're all balloons.
Does he make those like
he
balloon
makes
animals?
them on stage.
They're very elaborate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy's fun. He's
Okay.
gonna be really good. And it's totally free. We're gonna have bins out for Harvest Ministries.
Okay.
Bring your non-perishables.
Sure.
We're gonna load up the food banks.
And they can always use your help more.
Oh my goodness.
The summer months are leaner months for them. And
Right.
good news is back to school is going to help them, but they need help right now.
Yeah.
Bring as many canned goods or non-perishable as you can.
Absolutely. And it's not just for kids, it's for the family.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to see
It
this.
sounds
how
like
he does
fun.
with balloons.
Well, and like you said, the picture doesn't do it justice, but to me it looks like he's recreating Sesame Street character, like that caliber of quality of when you see Big Bird and Bert and Ernie on the screen. It's that caliber of quality, but it's all balloon.
Yeah,
it's all the
balloons.
little long balloons that look like hot dogs. They keep folding up into shapes and whatnot.
Insane, just insane.
Yeah.
So,
and obviously he's probably got a message through all of that.
Yeah, he does, and it's going to be really good. It's going to be a lot of fun. The kids will enjoy it. He gets the kids involved some ways and parents, and so it's free.
Yeah, it's a free event.
And you know what? It's an event. It's a group event.
Yeah.
Come and enjoy hanging out together on Friday night.
And you won't miss football. The high school's not a couple weeks
not
away before
started
Friday
yet,
night
man.
football. So you got a couple weeks.
And I have to do that. My son's playing football, so I know
he's
Friday
on the
nights
team
are
this
busy.
year? Good deal. Good deal. So I bet he's excited.
He is. Well,
Good.
he's still JV, but he has to go to all the games. So
Well, and it's the progression.
That's right.
His year's JV. Next year he'll probably be on the varsity team and going through the motions and going to that next level here.
That's right.
So
That's right.
It's growing. Just like
it
we
is.
all do.
Everything is. Yep.
But again, the book one more time. The book's called "Unless the Lord," a book about about trusting the Lord through Psalm 127. It is available through Amazon, through Borders Book, all the
Barnes and Nobles,
all the
everything.
national outlets that you can get books, and of course locally here, Grace Community Church, you'll find them there.
Absolutely.
But you can get them online, get all of that stuff, and of course. If you'd like to learn more about the church and everything else, come on out to a Sunday morning service.
Absolutely. 9 o'clock, 10:45.
Yeah.
Right there on 935 West Mescalero.
Yeah.
Next to the big park. So I always tell people there's a big park and there's a big building.
Yeah.
Go to the big building.
That's right. Or, go to the park and then walk on over.
That's
Whatever you
right.
want to do, but it's right there.
And we have something for all ages. I mean, we do everything from 0 all the way up to 100.
Yeah.
We've got something for you on Sunday morning. So, yeah, that'd be great.
Absolutely. And
Come on
then
out.
don't forget, next Friday, the 12th, is their big back-to-school event for free. What time is that?
6 o'clock.
6
Start at
p.m.
6.
And come out and share the gentleman's name again.
His name is Dr. Dan Bellamy.
Okay. And he's going to be doing, obviously, telling some message and stories,
Right.
but at the same time making balloon animals that are going to probably blow you away. So.
That's right. That's right, Mike.
No pun intended.
I didn't even think about that. Good job.
I didn't either until I said it. Until I said it, I was like, oh, yeah, there's a pun there. Didn't mean it.
Awesome.
Good deal. Al, is there anything we didn't get a chance to cover? Anything we skipped or
I think we
dismissed?
got it, man.
Good deal. Well, thank you. And can't wait to have you back and keep us updated, too. Like, when and if another book's on the
I
horizon
will definitely
here.
do that. And if
and,
I do a book signing here in town,
and if this thing turns into Shack 2, You know, because to be honest, that was that was a very grassroots thing with a book and a man much like yourself who wrote this story and
Such a great book.
And then it turned into a phenomenon. You know, and who knows? Maybe this is that one.
Maybe. I'll go with a few copies sold.
Well, if we get too big time on us, we'll know.
That's right.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot,
okay?
Mike. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right.
It is 9:57. Quick break.